The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Kalshi. Make real money predicting sports. Kalshi is available in every state, and you also get $20 for free when you sign up with the promo code SGPN. That's Kalshi, promo code SGPN. And welcome, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Currently Saturday morning, January 31st, around 7:20 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rosso Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the final episode of the Aussie Open and break down the men's final between Alcaraz and Djokovic. So that's going to be taking place on Sunday at around 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time. But I was up early anyway. I watched the women's final and decided, you know what, let's record the episode early. So I did some research, got my picks in, and now it's time to get into the last episode of the Aussie Open. So before we get into the actual recap of the lock and dog picks, etc., reminder, you can support the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube at the SGPN Tennis Gambling Podcast. Find it on Spotify or Apple as well. And a reminder, when you check it out on YouTube, like, subscribe. When you check it out on Spotify or Apple, leave a rating and a review. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store. A lot of great tennis merch. We have sweatshirts, we have t-shirts, we have mugs. Think you'll like the options that we have. So once again, check out the merch store. A lot of options there, not just for tennis, but for the other shows on the network as well. And a reminder that we also have an app to find all of our podcasts in one convenient location. So if you want to get easy access to all of our picks and podcasts on SGPN, go to the SGPN app. Free to download in the App Store. So once again, check out the SGPN app. Free to download for easy access to all of the picks and podcasts on the SGPN platform. So starting off with the recap of the lock and dog picks from the women's final. Overall decent. We almost swept, kind of a heartbreaker there. But either way, did win the lock with Sabalenka team total over 12.5 games at minus 125. Really never in doubt. Sabalenka ended up losing the first set, but she ended up kind of coasting there in the second. Was really never threatened at any point in the second set. That eventually got the break she needed, as she was able to get the job done. But Sabalenka in that second set ended up facing 0 break points, so she kept holding easily. Rybakina eventually blinked, and Sabalenka got the job done there in the second, before eventually losing in 3. But either way, still landed 14 on her team total. Nice win there for the over. For the dog, it was a bit of a heartbreaker. We had the over 19.5 all total, parlayed with Sabalenka money line at plus 112, and Sabalenka led 3-0 in the third set. Rybakina looked like she was in the middle of a classic implosion as Rybakina ended up losing, I believe it was 5 games in a row. They were tied 4-4 in the second set. Then Sabalenka won the next 2. Then she won the first 3 games of the third set. So once again, Rybakina lost 5 games in a row. And I thought to myself, we were in good shape. We were not. Sabalenka went from winning 5 games in a row to losing 5 games in a row. So Sabalenka went from up 3-0 to down 5-3 and ended up losing in the third set. So picked up a loss there as Sabalenka money line did not get home. Up 3-0, you figured she might close the door. She did not. So picked up a loss there for the dog. If you live hedged it, you made some good overall money. But either way, point is still won the lock and ended up losing the dog. On the bright side, though, to the Sabalenka collapse there in the third set, we already had a guaranteed winner for the outright because we had Sabalenka and Rybakina pre-tournament to win the event. Rybakina got there at 13-1. Now, I know most books had around 8-1, give or take. We found a rogue 13, but either way, nice win for the outright, and we'll see if Alcaraz can get the job done on the men's side because we might sweep the outrights for the men's and women's Aussie Open. But either way, Rybakina 13-1. We'll sacrifice the dog loss for a 13-1 cash. Can't complain. Once again, great next 5 games to win the next 5 games. And on top of that, she also was able to serve it out without choking. So congratulations to Rybakina for getting the job done there. Nice job by her. And 13-1 once again ends up cashing. Now, for the match in itself, I kind of just broke it down. But either way, Sabalenka was struggling to convert break points early, eventually found her rhythm on serve, and then eventually Rybakina found an opening and then capitalized as she was able to sneak away with her second ever Grand Slam title. Good for her. As for Sabalenka, end of the day, she has 4 Grand Slam titles out of 8 finals appearances. So 4-4, not great. Couple of pretty bad losses in there. Lost to Keys last year. Rybakina up 3-0 in the final set this year. Of course, you have the Goff situation in the French Open. There have been a lot of chances for Sabalenka to pad her resume, and she has just failed to do so. So, yes, I understand that still 4 Grand Slam titles is solid, but she probably should have at least 6 by now. And it feels like she still struggles to actually close the door in big matches. But either way, nice job by Rybakina to get the job done, and we hit a nice 13-1 shot in the process. Checking out the comment section here, I see Matt stopping by, Joe stopping by as well. Yes, I did get a haircut. Half my hair disappeared and the beard. Besides that, though, looking at the rest of the comment section, I see Abu stopping by. I see Dark Knight stopping by. And there you go. I see Dark Knight asking if Rybakina will move down my clown list. She has to. She was able to win. Then again, she did a great job trying to move herself up the actual list after whatever the hell that second set was against Pegula in the semis. But if you win a Grand Slam title, I should probably take you off. So I think Rybakina will end up being removed from the clown list. She gave herself, once again, an audition to move up with the Pegula second set. But either way, she ended up winning the whole thing. All that matters, and she came back from 3-0 down in the final set. I think you're right, Dark Knight, though. I will take her off the clown list for the time being. I think she's definitely earned it for at least a short period of time. Besides that, though, nothing else really add for the women's match, and hopefully you ended up catching it because it was entertaining. But either way, moving on to the recap of the men's semis. Absolute bedlam. You ended up having no chaos at all for the entire tournament before the Musetti-Djokovic match. Then, of course, Joker ended up advancing despite not winning a set. And then we had absolute chaos in the semis, as you ended up seeing 2 separate 5-set wars, as Alcaraz ended up outlasting Zverev in 5 sets, and you also ended up seeing Djokovic outlast Sinner somehow in 5 sets, as he got the job done there. Alcaraz was, I'd say, on the verge of coasting to a nice 3-0 win, and then he started cramping, and at that point, the entire match got turned upside down, and instead of winning in straight sets, Alcaraz had to play for 5 hours and 27 minutes, but he found a way. Zverev, in classic fashion, choked multiple times, and Alcaraz found a way to survive. Now, I'll break down that match a bit more now, and then I'll get into the Djokovic match. I don't want to spend too much time on the recap, but I kind of have to, because these 2 matches were just all-time stuff. So Alcaraz won the first 2 sets. Zverev served for the second set, and he choked it. What else is new? And Alcaraz stole it. So you figure, okay, Zverev's down 2-0. He's dead. I mean, Alcaraz was probably, once again, on the ropes there to lose the second set, and then you thought maybe it would be a war. But instead, Alcaraz, who had not dropped a set yet, you figured was going to just roll after that. Zverev would have let it linger in his head mentally from choking the second set away, and Alcaraz, in probably about 40 minutes, would just win the match. And instead, he fell apart physically. Zverev still did a horrible job actually converting breaks against Alcaraz, who was basically on one leg for about an hour and a half. But Zverev either way won 2 tie breaks, then Alcaraz seemed to be looking better, still not 100%, and Zverev broke him immediately in the 5th set. So Zverev found himself in a spot where he fought off a couple of break points earlier in the 5th set. And then Zverev had his chance at glory. He was serving for the match against Alcaraz. And what do you know? He got passive and he choked. So Alcaraz went from down 5-3 in the 5th set to winning the final 4 games and winning 7-5 in the 5th set. So in classic Zverev fashion, not even just choking while serving for the match, but he got broken again after that to lose the match. So either way, absolute chaos. Alcaraz was coasting, then his body let him down. Zverev did the bare minimum to win those next 2 sets, and then he found himself in a great opportunity, and he choked. So either way, once again, Alcaraz found a way to win in 5.5 hours, basically. Just an absolute epic, but nice win by Alcaraz nonetheless. So you figure, okay, that's going to be the match of the tournament, so you can't really top that. And I'm not sure if the Djokovic and Sinner match did top the Alcaraz-Zverev match, but either way, it was definitely in the same stratosphere in terms of match quality. Because Djokovic, unlike the Alcaraz match, it was not 5.5 hours. It was still 4 hours and 9 minutes. But Djokovic lost the first set to Sinner. He fell behind immediately a break. I think Sinner went up 3-0 in the first 5 minutes of the match. And you figure, okay, Joker might be getting destroyed here. And Sinner coasted to a nice, easy first set win. Then Joker broke in the second set, and you actually thought that this might get interesting. And then Sinner, of course, ended up breaking Djokovic to win the third set. Joker attempted a lob, it went long. And at that point, I think most people thought, okay, Sinner is up 2-1. Joker has been battling either a stomach issue or something because he was asking for some like tablets or something to actually take in the middle of the match. So he was not 100%. He might have been puking as well into his towel like Alcaraz was. I think I saw a clip of that. But either way, the point is he figured Sinner up 2-1. Djokovic, who was pretty lucky to get here after the Musetti retirement, you figured, okay, Sinner found a way, he'll end up winning in probably 4 and they'll move on. And that did not happen, as Joker found a way to survive and actually win as a massive dog. He was around 9-1 on the outright money line. You can argue it's the most improbable win of his career. This one, maybe Cincinnati against Alcaraz a couple years ago, but probably one of the Federer matches at 15-40 or 40-15. Probably the Wimbledon final, actually, now that I think about it. But you get what I'm trying to say. The point is nobody before the match gave him a chance, and the GOAT showed why he was the GOAT. He found a way to win, and the main story here is that Sinner did outplay Djokovic in basically all the main categories, except for one, break points. Sinner was really just horrific on break points. Djokovic was able to fight off 16 of 18 break points faced, and Sinner, by comparison, fought off 5 of 8. So 2 of 18 on break points is disgusting, and that's the only way that Djokovic ended up winning. Because Sinner, reading off the stats, by the way, he served out of his mind. So Sinner ended up having 26 aces. He won 80% of his first serve points, 52% of his second serve points, and he landed 75% of his first serves. 75% first serve accuracy with 26 aces, and he still lost the match, which is insane. But Djokovic found a way to escape multiple low 40s. He found a way to just hang in there, and Sinner could not convert a breakpoint chance to save his life. And the real story with that is the fifth set, just for example. So Sinner had a bunch of chances early. Joker ended up breaking, and then Sinner had some chances, did not convert. In that fifth set, Sinner went 0 for 8 on breakpoint chances. Djokovic went 1 for 1. That's all it takes sometimes. But either way, Sinner was a guy who I thought would beat Djokovic. I thought that Djokovic was never going to beat Sinner again. And he proved me wrong. As Sinner had a bunch of chances, you could argue that he outplayed Djokovic. But either way, he ended up falling short. And the real story, in the grand scheme of things, the main Achilles heel for Sinner is his really bad record in long matches. It is really, really bad. So, yes, I understand Alcaraz right now, I believe, is 15-1 in fifth sets. It's either 15-1 or 16-1. Sinner's kind of the opposite. He has to win early, and if he doesn't, the longer the match goes, the more likely he is to lose. But either way, Joker found a way to get the job done somehow, and now we have Djokovic, who's one match away from Grand Slam number 25. Alcaraz, though, the real story with him is whether or not he'll make a full recovery with the cramping that he ended up having. Then again, we saw him get congratulated by Djokovic, actually, on the bike after he ended up beating Zverev. So we did see Alcaraz on the stationary bike trying to loosen up after the match. So I think Alcaraz should be fine, but that is the main concern here. It's why people are giving Djokovic a serious chance to win the match. It's because Alcaraz might not be 100%. Then again, we have seen other players, for example, Sinner, who struggled earlier in the event. He was cramping. Then he ended up burying Shelton in straight sets. So I'm not sure if it actually matters. Alcaraz did have at least one day off to fully recover. We'll see how he looks in the final, but that is the main, I'd say, question mark. It is the health and status of Alcaraz and the actual health and status of Djokovic, who played 4+ hours of insanely high-level tennis and has to come back in his late 30s to beat Alcaraz. So we'll see what happens. I'll break down the match in a second. But either way, 2 all-time semifinal matches, an all-time great day for men's tennis. And we'll see if the final can hold a candle to what we saw in the semis. But either way, time to move on into the actual breakdown of the title match. Before we get into the breakdown of the final, a reminder, brought to you by our sponsor, Avo. So if you want to make more money betting on sports, check out Avo. That's AVO. Bet sports betting tool that helps you make a profit every time you decide to place bets, courtesy of Arbitrage and Plus V Opportunities. They also can teach you how to do that. So if you don't know what any of that means, that's fine. They have step-by-step video guides to teach you how to do arbitrage, for an example. But a reminder that if you also want to check out AVO, go to avo.bet. Use the code SGPN for $18 off your purchase. That's avo.bet, code SGPN for $18 off your purchase. We're also brought to you by Kalshi, real money prediction market available in every state. So you can trade a bunch of markets in every state: NFL, college football, college basketball, the NBA, NHL, tennis, and more. Plus trade props like first touchdowns. Besides sports, they have other options as well, like politics, entertainment, and even the weather. And if you are new to the platform, a reminder that you can also get a free $20 when you sign up at Kalshi with the code SGPN. That's Kalshi, Kalshi, code SGPN for a free $20 at sign up at Kalshi. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Cam podcast. Finished going through the recap of the women's final and the recap of the men's semis. Time to move on into the final match of the tournament. Alcaraz taking on Djokovic. Now, the head-to-head is very competitive. It's currently 5-5, so it is dead even. I'll point out they faced off in the U.S. Open last year. Of course, Alcaraz won the title in the end, and Alcaraz did go through Djokovic in straight sets in that one. That was the semis of that event, but Alcaraz did end up winning 6-4, 7-6, 6-2. He only faced one break point in the entire match, so Alcaraz served out of his mind, and we'll see if he can do the same thing here against Djokovic on Sunday morning. Excuse me. Now, for the actual pricing on this one, Alcaraz, decent favorite. He's not Sinner at minus 1,300, but he's minus 330, and Djokovic is around plus 255. For the spread here, I see minus 4.5 for Alcaraz, plus 4.5 for Djokovic, and the over-under is at 38.5 games. Now, for the set spread, Alcaraz in straight sets is plus 180. Djokovic to win ace set is minus 230. Alcaraz minus 1.5 sets is minus 160. Djokovic plus 1.5 sets is plus 128. The over 3.5 sets is minus 175. The under is plus 135. Breaker in the match is at minus 150. No breakers, plus 117. For the team totals, Alcaraz team total over-under is at 20.5. Djokovic is set at 18.5. So going through the path so far for both guys, we know that Alcaraz has been coasting for the most part, with the exception of the last match against Zverev. But either way, that was the only match he dropped a set in the entire tournament. So he ended up beating Walton, beat Hanfman, beat Moutet, beat Paul, beat de Minaur, beat Zverev. And all those matches besides Zverev were in straight sets. And you could argue that if it wasn't for a freak occurrence when it comes to a cramping issue, Alcaraz might be entering the final without dropping a set. He's been that good. So the argument is if he's going to look anywhere near that post-cramping. Now, as for Djokovic, he's had a bit of a tougher go of it. He had a pretty easy road early. Beat Martinez, beat Maestrelli, and beat Dzanchulp all in straight sets. Fought off some set points, though, against Dzanchulp. Then he had a couple of abridged matches as he ended up having a walkover against Mensik. And then he had a win against Musetti, down 2-0. So he was on the ropes, and then eventually he found himself against Sinner, and he found a way to escape, despite actually winning less points than Sinner in the entire match. But either way, the point is Joker is here with a chance at 25, and Alcaraz, of course, is trying to complete the career Grand Slam, as the Aussie Open is the only major that he has not won yet, and this will be his first ever Aussie Open final. So for starters, I want to mention the actual, I'd say, emotions involved for both guys. Just to be clear, there is absolutely zero pressure on Djokovic. And some people might argue he's got a shot at 25. He just beat Sinner. You know, maybe the pressure, not even close. Nobody thought he'd end up beating Sinner. And the fact that Djokovic has 24 going for 25, yes, this might be his only remaining chance at 25. Then again, nobody's gone to 24 before besides him, so he's still the greatest of all time, no matter what. Alcaraz, though, has all the pressure because he is trying to title. He lost to Djokovic. They're tied 5-5 in the head-to-head. So the fact is, Alcaraz, I think, does have more pressure on him in this spot. Djokovic should just go out there and do his best and see what happens because nobody thought he'd even get to the final. So I do think that there's basically no pressure on Djokovic, who by all intents and purposes is playing with house money as far as I'm concerned. Now, Alcaraz is a decent favorite. Is that fair? I would say yes. Now, I do have to question the actual injury status of Alcaraz because we saw him on the bikes after the match, so he seemed fine. And in the actual press conference post-match against Zverev, he was talking about fatigue, etc., but he didn't mention anything about still being injured. So there were some theories it was also an actual muscle injury. According to Alcaraz and according to other people, I have not seen anything confirming that. I have only seen cramping, and we saw Alcaraz find his form a bit more in the fifth set against Zverev. I thought he served well with the actual circumstances, and I do think he will look a lot better in the final since he has some time to recover. But if you think Alcaraz has an actual injury, then maybe you want to go for Djokovic, but I don't think he does. I think that it was cramping, and I think that he will be fine entering the final, which does, and I'd say that opens the door for a pretty interesting question. Now, I understand that Djokovic, in hindsight, was disrespected at 9-1 against Sinner. However, Alcaraz, I tweeted about this, entering the quarterfinals. It was actually before the Sinner quarterfinal match against Shelton. And I was watching Alcaraz play in his match, and he was rolling. I ended up killing de Minaur. de Minaur was in God form. He was in great form. He was in God mode, ended up beating Bublik handily, and Alcaraz destroyed him. So when I saw that, I thought Alcaraz should be the favorite to win the tournament because he was playing better than Sinner. Sinner had the cramping issue against Spizzirri where he got bailed out by the heat index rule. The point is, I thought Alcaraz was the guy to beat for the last couple of rounds. And the reason why I bring that up is because Djokovic, who was 9-1 as dog against Sinner, should he really only be plus 255 against Alcaraz? I don't know. Now, if Alcaraz is fully healthy, which I think he is, I think he should be a much bigger favorite. I think Alcaraz should be, by comparison to Sinner, 13-1. Sorry, minus 1,300 might be egregious, but I do think Alcaraz should be like minus 650 if you think he's fully healthy. I think this line's too short. Now, I understand Alcaraz is still a decent favorite. I get that there's still some questions surrounding his actual fitness, but assuming he's fine, and by all the quotes, it seems like he's fine, the line does feel kind of cheap on Alcaraz by comparison to what we saw in the semis. Now, I understand part of that was Djokovic, who was fortunate to beat Musetti, and people thought he might just be completely cooked, and he was not. Alcaraz, though, was playing the best tennis of anybody. He had not dropped a set for the entire event before the cramping, and I do think he should be favored, in my opinion, by more than minus 335. I would have him at like minus 600. I think that he should end up winning. Djokovic, once again, we'll see how he looks post 4-hour marathon at, once again, 38 years old. So we'll see how he looks for this match. But I do think for the match in itself, I am going to go with Alcaraz. I do think he's been the best player in the field, and I do think that he'll end up looking sharp as the match goes on. Djokovic survived against Sinner, but he still gave up 18 breakpoint chances, and I think Alcaraz will do a better job of conversion with regard to those chances. So I do think that Alcaraz is the better server in this matchup right now, and I do think, of course, with the movement, with the firepower, I can really see Alcaraz copying the game plan from the U.S. Open semifinal match, which is Alcaraz kind of just showcasing the firepower, taking command of the rallies, coming forward when needed, and also, once again, serving well as he only faced one break point in the entire match. So for me, I'm going to go with Alcaraz here. I don't mind the spread at minus 4.5. I will give Djokovic the benefit of the doubt. I am going to give Djokovic a set here. So I do have Alcaraz winning in 4. But I do think that Alcaraz will eventually wear Djokovic down. Sinner had multiple chances to put the match on ice, and he could not convert. Also, Alcaraz, a reminder, is still 15-1 in fifth sets. So if this does go the distance, and if this ends up turning into an absolute marathon, I'm not picking Alcaraz to lose in a fifth set. So I do think he'll end up winning the matchup. But I am going to go Alcaraz, in my opinion, 3-1. I'll give Djokovic one set where he raises the firepower, catches Alcaraz off guard, kind of like what he did in the second set against Sinner in the semis. But I think Alcaraz will once again lift the trophy, or a Grand Slam trophy here, and I think he'll end up lifting his first ever Aussie Open title. A reminder, by the way, we already have Alcaraz to win the event, like we always do, him and Sinner. So we already have Alcaraz at plus money. So if you already have that, don't bother. but I do think he'll end up winning, and I think this match will be fun. But I do think Alcaraz is the better player at this point in their careers, and I do think Alcaraz will win, but not, once again, in a blowout. Give me Alcaraz in 4 if you want the price on that one. Alcaraz 3-1 is available at around plus 260. Anyway, besides that, I don't mind the over in the match. I think you'll get 4 sets. I think it'll be a couple of 6-4s in there, maybe a breaker. But 38.5, I do think, is a reasonable number, but I am going to go with the over. I see a 37.5 out there. I like minus 125. I don't mind that. Give me the overs, but I do think that Alcaraz eventually will find a way to get the job done. Anyway, let's go wrap it up for the preview of the final. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. So if you like pick'em entries, chance to win 5,000 times your entry during the playoff magic all playoffs long. Every playoff weekend, open the app, see what promos are waiting for you. And a reminder, new customers get great deals with Underdog. Right now, play just $5. Get $75 bonus funds when you sign up with the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. So they've been great this NFL season, especially on props. Check them out for the Super Bowl. You can use them for props, use them for sides or totals, all the model stuff, which they do a very good job of, once again, helping you out with those. And a reminder, you can get models in a couple of ways. You can build your own from scratch. You can copy over the leaderboard, or let Rhythm's house model give you plays. Different sports, too. They have golf. They have college basketball. A lot of options, not just football. So once again, you are still covered, even though the NFL has 1 game left this season. Check out Rhythm, and when you do so, get a nice discount courtesy of us. So when you go to Rhythm, use the code SGPN25. When you download the app, it'll get a nice 25% off your first month. That is Rhythm, RATHMM, code SGPN25 for a quarter off your first month at Rhythm. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the men's final between Alcaraz and Djokovic. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Now, a spoiler, I did double down with Alcaraz money line as a component for both the lock and the dog. So if Joker ends up winning, we're going 0-2 guaranteed. However, I think Alcaraz is going to win. So I am going to take him in both the lock and dog, but a couple of niche props here. I'm going to Alcaraz to win the first set and the match at minus 136 on FanDuel. Alcaraz has been a great starter recently, and I think that should be the case once again here in the final. Alcaraz has won the first set in 8 of his last 9 matches. Djokovic, though, has been a slow starter. He lost the first set to Sinner, lost the first set to Musetti. It does feel like Djokovic is a bit slow out of the gates recently, and I think Alcaraz should jump him early in the first set. So I am going to take Alcaraz to win the first set as part of it. He's also been good against Djokovic. He has won the first set in 3 of the last 4 matches against Djokovic. But simply put, Alcaraz as the favorite is minus 335. So saving about $2 by including the first set money line with the full match money line, I think is a very good deal. So give me Alcaraz to win the first set and the match at minus 136 as my lock for the show. For my dog, I am going to go with Alcaraz to win the match and both players to win a set at plus 132. Djokovic has been competitive against Alcaraz. Said before, they are 5-5 in the head-to-head. I know Alcaraz did beat Joker in straight sets in the last meeting, but there was a tiebreaker in there, so it was a little bit close for at least one set. But Joker has won at least 1 set in 7 of his 9 career ATP matches against Alcaraz. So once again, we have seen Djokovic look sharp so far in the head-to-head, at least in terms of competitiveness, and I think that should be the case once again. Alcaraz maybe has a dip in form for a little while. We'll see what happens, but I think Djokovic will not go home empty-handed. I think he'll take a set. Alcaraz, though, I think has been the best player here by a mile. He was on pace to enter the title match without dropping a set. Then the cramping happened, but the point is he was playing great tennis before. He found his rhythm again in the 5th set late against Zverev. I think that was, once again, more of a physical issue instead of his overall form. When healthy, Alcaraz has been phenomenal. He has been the best player in the world, at least from what I've seen in the event so far. I think he's going to win. So once again, including Djokovic to win a set, getting plus 132, saving basically $3-4, I think is a very good deal. So I'll go with Alcaraz once again to win, but a different element to make it plus money. I'll take both players to win a set included at plus 132. Both those plays, by the way, are on FanDuel. So once again, the lock and dog for the men's final. The lock's going to be on Alcaraz to win the first set and the match at -136. For the dog, I'm going with Alcaraz to win again, but I'm including both players to win a set at +132. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the show and for the Aussie Open. We're back once again in a couple of days to break down the tournament in Montpellier. Only one event taking place next week. It's one of my favorite events of the year with the red background on the blue court. So looking forward to that one in France. But either way, we'll be back to break down that tournament next episode. Till next time, follow me on Twitter, Reichel Radio, and check out the podcast, Spotify or Apple. Check it out on YouTube. Check it out on the SGPN app as well. Till next time, good old